过去的11月是中国在国际舞台施展大国外交浓墨重彩的一个月。时隔13年后，亚太经合组织峰会再次来到中国。此次会议成果丰硕，尤其是中美元首会晤，双方在气候变化、两军关系、信息技术产品关税以及签证便利化等方面取得的进展，普遍超出此前的预期。近日，履新9个月的美国驻华大使鲍卡斯在北京的大使官邸接受了舒立时间专访，这也是鲍卡斯上任后首次接受中国媒体的采访。
President Xi Jinping devoted 9 hours to discussion with President Obama, that much more than all the time together with other leaders. So did the two presidents reach a new personal understanding?
I was impressed with how each listened to the other. President Xi listened to President Obama when President Obama explained American values and our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence. And in addition, President Obama listened to President Xi, who spoke at one point for about 20 minutes about the role of China and the growth of China and the importance of the Communist Party in China. And at the end of each dissertation or statement, each said, "Oh, thank you very much. I've learned something now." That's very helpful. So there was another level, a deeper level of understanding, but it's like everything in life, nothing's static, it's all dynamic. You got to keep working at it. And that's what I see my job to be, is to keep working at it, talk to people, travel around the country, do all I can just to help cement this relationship even further.
Do you think is that a breakthrough of the bilateral relations?
Well, I think it's a step forward. My view is, and many people have said this, it bears repeating, that this is the most important bilateral relationship in the world, U.S.-China. We have to get it right. And I like this job so much because I'm at the cusp, at the intersection, working with our two countries, trying to help marginally, incrementally, just make sure we do get it right. And I think that the agreements that were reached very much move in that direction. Now, that's just 1 week. We have to just keep going. And that takes a lot of work to keep it going.
Yeah, but however, it seems to me that both Chinese and American public opinions appears to have grown more negative toward one another recently. Some people argue that China's power and influence is in the ascendant, while the U.S. in a relative decline. Would you buy the argument?
And the United States welcomes China's rise. First of all, it's inevitable. China is growing, and one day we'll have a gross domestic product that will exceed that of the United States. It's going to happen someday. But we Americans welcome that. Why do we welcome it? Because a rising economic China is good for China. It's good for the United States. It's good for the world. And I think a lot of Americans are they're curious about China. They see China growing. They see China rising. Its economic growth growing. They're curious about that, and they're wondering, like, what does all this mean? And I think a lot of people in China, Chinese people I talk to, they're kind of curious too. Who is America? And how is America reacting to all this? And the answer to both questions is really very simple. We just have to both work together and manage the relationship in a way that's very constructive and very positive. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I do think we have no choice. It's inevitable. There's no alternative.
今年73岁的鲍卡斯是1979年中美建交以来上任时年龄最大的驻华大使。与前2任美国大使骆家辉和洪博培相比，鲍卡斯似乎并没有什么中国缘。不过，他在处理贸易问题上的丰富经验，也许是他获此职位的重要砝码。他不仅是颇有权势的美国参议院财政委员会主席，还是奥巴马饱受争议的医疗改革法案的设计师，迄今也是蒙大拿州任职时间最长的联邦参议员。
You had been a lawyer for years, but later you contributed the whole life as a politician, mainly as a senator for more than 30 years. So why did you choose as a politician instead of professional?
When I was in college, I went to an overseas campus for 6 months. I studied in France for 6 months. Then I put a knapsack on my back and handbag and a hitchhike around the world for 1 year, to Europe and Africa and Asia. And that planted the seeds for later interest in public service. I did not realize it at the time. I started thinking about things, and after practicing law a few years, I realized I did not want to be, a hired commercial gun. I'd rather work for people, work to solve problems for more people. And so I decided into public service, and I feel very, very lucky that I have.
You started from 1973.
Yeah.
Very early.
Yeah. And I love my old job, working in the United States Senate. But I love this job even more because I'm working right on the cusp, right in the middle of, I think, the most important relationship in the world. And there's nothing more rewarding than helping to try to contribute to the understanding between the United States and China. It's wonderful.
Yeah, did you expect you were chosen as ambassador to China?
I didn't expect that, but I did spend a lot of time thinking about China, traveling to China. I visited China 8 times before I took this job, and I worked very hard in getting China entering the WTO. And talked with Zhu Ji, for example, back then, 2000, 1999, 2000, through there, and I just liked China. It just intrigued me, and also I realized a long time ago, our fates are intertwined, the United States and China. So I want to be there helping make that happen.
So were you surprised when you were given this offer?
I was very surprised. But I jumped at it right away. I didn't give it a second thought. Intuitively, immediately, said, yes, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, so how do you enjoy the most outside work during your stay in China?
I love the job because it's so interesting, it's so exciting. There's always something new that develops every day. And the people are so fascinating, so smart, so agile, so quick, so entrepreneurial, looking for new ways of doing things. And I like that a lot. And I've also stumbled across WeChat. So WeChat for me is it's useful.
WeChat, you use it?
Yes. Yeah.
We can scan.
Yeah, we get our WeChat.
Yeah, together, yeah.
Yeah, WeChat, and because I find that a lot of fun. And I go to a meeting or dinner party or something, and I ask people, "Do you use WeChat?" "Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Use WeChat." So we have it's a good conversation breaker. Icebreaker. Just talk about WeChat. Oh, I love it. So I find that work, but also fun. It's a lot of fun to use WeChat.
So you don't have to travel a lot. You can use
I love
WeChat.
traveling. I love traveling.
Okay.
That's something else I like a lot. Going all around the country. My goal, I told President Xi, when I presented my credentials, I'm going to visit every single province.
How many have you covered already?
13 so far.
Oh, 13 already?
Out of 31. So I've got
31, so you still,
I've got a few more to go.
Yeah, a few more to go.
But I love travel. That's because I feel that's how I learn. I learn by just talking to people. My goal is to meet all the party secretaries in the provinces and the governors and business people, American businessmen, Chinese businessmen, NGOs, just to meet, learn as much as I can. And I find that fun.
Which one is the most impressive for you?
There are different reasons. Xinjiang is fascinating.
So what issues will top your agenda in the next 2 years?
Well, it's continuing on the efforts we've already undertaken, namely climate change. I think it's historic. It's amazing that our 2 countries reached an agreement on climate. When I arrived here 9 months ago, I'd asked the government about climate change. Oh, that was like talking to a fence post. They were just no interest in climate. But now there's a great interest in climate. We've reached the agreement where both countries agreed to accomplish certain objectives in reducing carbon emissions. So one goal is to keep it up, just keep working with Chinese companies, American companies, energy technology companies, clean energy companies to keep it up. Another is in the area of economics. It's the bilateral investment treaty. Just get that wrapped up. It's going to take about a few months. The so-called negative list will come out next year, and it's getting that pared down to very low numbers so companies in both our countries can enjoy national treatment, non-discriminatory practices. That's extremely important. Add to that is working with other areas that are worldwide of importance. Ebola is a good example. We are the two biggest countries in the world. It is such an opportunity for our two countries to work together and to lead and to show the world that China, the United States, can work together, and how important it is to work together, then it's more likely that other countries will follow suit.
So how soon you think it will be finished, concluded?
The language is being worked on, frankly, right now. There are about the 16th and 17th meeting.
Yeah.
But next year is China will propose its so-called negative list. That just means this is the list of areas where there's not national treatment. The goal is national treatment for everybody. National treatment means that companies in China, whether they're Chinese companies or foreign companies, get the same equal treatment. That's the goal. I expect this to be concluded sometime next year.
Oh, next year.
Next year.
Yeah, that would be good.
I hope.
Early next year or later this
Well,
year.
the earlier the better. The earlier the better.
Reportedly that Americans, the multinational companies, are unhappy about their treatment in China. Do you think these businesses are treated fairly? And what are their main complaints?
The world has become very competitive. With globalization, competition is more keen all across the globe. So companies have to compete even more to boost their bottom line. Some industries feel they're doing very well in China. Others think there's not sufficient national treatment. And my answer to all this is that for Chinese companies to grow and develop, Chinese companies must maintain international economic standards of transparency, a rule of law, get rid of all these subsidies, get rid of this preferential financing, compete in the basis of price and of product and the quality of product, because that's the world norm, that's the world standard. And then Chinese companies will do very, very, very well in the future. They'll develop brand and be able to sustain their products overseas. But at the same time, American companies will be able to compete because it'll be a level playing field. With a level playing field, it helps the companies, it helps consumers, helps build trust. It's very important that both the United States and China work to develop a level playing field for both countries.
Actually, the competition is in both sides. So Chinese businesses are also eager to go abroad to invest outside of China.
And we see much more of that.
Yes. So are Chinese investors welcome in the U.S. and what are their own major obstacles?
More Chinese are investing in the U.S. In fact, this year, Chinese investment in the United States significantly exceeded U.S. Direct investment in China. Chinese companies are curious about investing in the United States. They're not sure what the landscape's all about, and they're asking a lot of questions, as they should, because I've learned through experience, if you want to find an answer to the question, you got to ask the question to go out and find the answer. So I encourage Chinese companies to come over to the United States. Many investors I talk to here in China say, we like investing in the United States. Why? Because it's more stable. We understand the political system, rather than Africa, or rather than South America. But we like investing in the United States.
放眼亚太地区，美国继续积极推动其主导的跨太平洋伙伴关系协定。一旦达成，跨太平洋伙伴关系协定将成为世界贸易组织创立以来最大的贸易协定，覆盖全球经济约40%。而在今年的 APEC 峰会上，中国则开启了亚太自贸区进程。亚太自贸区较美国主导、接近完成的跨太平洋伙伴关系协定，覆盖面更广，包容性更大。
You are one of the advocates of the TPP. So, so how is it faring? Do you anticipate any resistance from U.S. domestic politics?
We are working on trade agreements. Why? Because trade agreements are designed to help trade between our countries. Generally, with more trade, consumers get lower prices for their products, and better products are developed. And there are a lot of trade agreements they talked about in Asia. The TPP is one, and there are others like FTAP is another. They're a whole bunch.
A lot of
There are a bunch of them. And I think all that's good. It's good to keep working on them all so that we are able to trade more easily between our countries and also invest more easily between and among our countries. Whenever there's change, there's almost always some local resistance. And in this case, there might be some people in the United States who are not going to be advocating as much for TPP as most. I think TPP should pass. I'm working for it.
Yeah.
President Obama is working for it.
Yeah. Also, this time in APEC, China started the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership,
Right.
and which is taken as also great progress for the regional cooperation. So, what is the relationship between TPP and RCEP, in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, I think TPP will pass. And when it does, I think there's a significant chance that South Korea will want to join. And when that happens, I think China is going to be asking itself, well, gee, maybe China might want to join as well. 7, 8 months ago, when TPP would rise in conversations I'd have with people, with government officials, they were a bit critical of TPP. But over the time, they're less and less critical of TPP, which indicates to me there's some interest in potentially joining. Now, you mentioned RCEP. That's an alternative in Asia. Then there's FTAP. That's another alternative. My view is let's keep working on encouraging countries to join agreements that seem to make the most sense. And right now, the one that has the most prominence and the most likely to succeed and succeed earliest is TPP.
TPP, probably next year, right? Early next year.
I think so. Early next year. Yeah.
To what extent the China factor influences the discourse of U.S. domestic issues?
It's changing for the better. A few years ago, 4, 5, 6 years ago, a Chinese company, I think it was Sihanouk, attempted to purchase the harbor in the East Coast. It caused a big hue and cry. Americans didn't like it, so on and so forth. So it stopped. But look what's happened in the last several years. And Shuanghui bought Smithfield hams in the United States, and that was Americans liked it. And now various Chinese investors are buying property in the United States that seems to not meet any resistance. For example, that a Chinese consortium is buying the GM building in New York City, and the other acquisitions like that. So I think that the role of Chinese wealth is very important in a constructive respect to investing in the United States. That's the supply. The wealth is here. The demand is the demand for infrastructure. The United States needs to build more railroads, just like the high-speed railroads here in China. More airports, just like the wonderful fancy airports here in China. And we need the financing. We need the investment, and we'll provide a lot of that in the United States. But there's a role for Chinese private investment to come to the United States too, and I think it'd be accepted in the United States more than some people might think, so long as it's all done fairly with transparency and rule of law and all that, and there's accountability.
今年，中国在对外经济政策方面提出了一系列战略性想法，如“一带一路”的国家战略布局，及丝绸之路经济带和21世纪海上丝绸之路，以及筹建亚洲基础设施投资银行。对此，作为美国驻华大使鲍卡斯又有何见解呢？
To what extent does the U.S. embrace or at least not oppose this?
I think that those efforts are important. Why do I say that? Because there's need for greater capital investment in Asia. Existing institutions, frankly, are okay, but China is growing so much. Asian population is growing so fast that there's a great need for additional investment, infrastructure investment in Asia to accommodate the needs of the people here. Second, I think any institution that's developed, and you mentioned a few, they all must follow international standards, international commercial standards, transparency, capital requirements. It just, as long as they follow basic international norms, in financing norms, then I think that's fine, whatever the institution might be, because that will more likely result in sustainable, durable growth, investment, in infrastructure, and if they have the right standards, then I think it's great.
My readers are also very interested in what kind of role can U.S. play on because the U.S. has been one of the favorite places for Chinese corrupted officials. So what is the state of cooperation in chasing these officials?
First, it's unfortunate, but there's corruption worldwide. It's not just China or other countries, and it's regrettable. But second, it must be attacked forcefully, very forcefully, and rooted out as much as possible. Why? Because a lot of these bad actors should not be stealing and getting away with ill-gotten gains. Second, it's very important to get rid of the corruption, because corruption is corrosive. It undermines confidence. It makes it very difficult to do business. It makes people not trust each other. So we, in the United States, are working with the Chinese government to root out corruption in both countries. We do not want to be a safe haven for corrupt people. We don't want that in the United States. We don't want to be a safe haven. And we are currently working with the Chinese government on finding the bad people in the United States who think they're getting away with something. They think they're safe, but we want to make sure they're not safe. But it's not going to be an easy process, because the United States judicial standards have to be respected. You find somebody, and that person should be given his due process under the law. But there are a lot of avenues, lots of tools we have, but we do want to work with China to root out some of these corrupt people who think they have a safe haven in the United States, and we hope soon find that it's not very safe after all.
So we are expecting to see more and more yes,
good
stories. Good stories.
I hope so. We hope so.
In the hunting down.
We're working together, and that's part of the relationship, the U.S.-China. Because when the Chinese government realizes that, hey, the United States is working with us, that helps. Every little bit helps her. Then that'll help us with some other issues that might come up.